Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Apeejay Kolkata Literary Festival session, Books and Cinema from Word to Screen. Joining us today are four eminent personalities from the world of cinema. Well-known screenwriter and advertising professional Juhi Chaturvedi joins us today from Himachal. She's worked on Bollywood films like Vicky Donor, Piku, October, Gulabo Sitabo. She's also won the Filmfare Award for Best Story for Vicky Donor, the National Film Award for Best Original Screenplay and Best Dialogues, and the 2016 Filmfare Award for Best Screenplay for Piku. Deepa Mehta joins us today from Toronto. She's a transnational artist and a screenwriter, director, and producer whose work has been called courageous, provocative, and breathtaking. Her visually lush and emotionally resonating films have played at every major international film festival. Manoj Bajpai joins us today from Mumbai. He's a brilliant actor who's predominantly worked in Hindi cinema and has also done films in Telugu and Tamil. He's the recipient of two National Film Awards for Filmfare Awards and two Asia Pacific Screen Awards for Best Performance by an Actor. Also, he's received the Padma Shri for his contribution to art. In conversation today with Juhi, Deepa, and Manoj, we have Aseem Chhabra, who's a renowned film journalist, freelance writer, and author, and festival programmer in New York City. Aseem is the festival director of the New York Indian Film Festival and the Silk Screen Asian American Film Festival in Pittsburgh. Over to Aseem to take the conversation forward.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aseem Chhabra. I'm a freelance writer and author, and also the festival director of the New York Indian Film Festival. Welcome to the session organized by the Apeejay Kolkata Literary Festival. We're going to have a fascinating conversation on from word to screen, looking at how books as well as script then finally translate into what becomes a film on the screen. So hope you enjoy this session. Thank you.
We have three brilliant people from different parts of the world, actually. It's an international panel. I'm sitting in Delhi, and to my right is Manoj Bajpai and Juhi Chaturvedi. I think you both are in Bombay. Am I right, Mumbai?
Right now, currently, I'm not. I'm in Himachal.
Juhi's in Himachal, Manoj is in Mumbai, and Deepa Mehta, who is in Toronto. So welcome all. It's late evening, night in India and early morning in Toronto. So good morning, Deepa. Deepa, I'm going to start with you. If I'm correct, you've made three films based on works of fiction, right? Ice Candy Man, which is also called Cracking India, Midnight Children, and your latest film, Funny Boy, which still hasn't, people are dying to see it in India, really. And then you've written a lot of scripts of your own also. I'm first of all curious about what draws you to, and especially, these classic novels, what drew you to them, and this imagination that you would be able to bring somebody else's story as compared to writing your own stories and your own script.
Well, I've done 4 adaptations from novels.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay. And in fact, all of them have something in common. And perhaps that's what attracted me to each and every one of them, even though they're quite different. And that is sectarian war and prejudice. All of them, in some way or the other, have been based on what happens to humanity. And there was a wonderful line that attracted me to Bapsi Sidhwa's book called Ice Candy Man. And I remember picking it up, I don't know where we were, but and reading at the back cover. And it was just one quote from Bapsi. And she said that it was written that all wars are fought on women's bodies. And that really stuck with me. And for me, that became sort of like a mantra for all the adaptations that I did, whether it was Ice Candy Man, whether it's Funny Boy, whether it's even Midnight Children, because all of them are definitely based on sectarian war. So war fascinates me, maybe because I can't originally write about them. So I look for them look for something that I wouldn't have the courage to perhaps approach myself, but can really admire when somebody else does it.
But I'm also curious at the same time, you have sat and written some very, very powerful, strong stories. Fire, for instance, which is a story about two women in a middle class household in Delhi. Water, very, very moving story, which was been Oscar nominated, and a range of other films. You've done comedies, like a very light film like Bollywood, Hollywood, and range of other films. What inspires you? Do you say to yourself, there's a story I want to write and the words I want to create myself? Or there are books that you've read, and I'm sure you read a number of books over and they're sitting in your head, and you say to yourself, "That's a story I really want to make." Or sometimes script. I think Funny Boy, the script had already been written, right, when it came to you, the first draft of the script.
Yes, it was like 200 pages long, so you can
Oh
imagine.
God.
So, we had to, we ended up by co-writing it with Shyam,
Yeah.
who's a wonderful novelist and a good, this was his first script. And we had to, not we had to, but it lent itself to be 105 pages finally from 200 pages. So it was, I don't know, I'm sure Juhi has an answer to that. When you write original, for me, if there's a subject, it's always a subject, and it's a subject that I'm curious about, or I don't know much about, and I would like to learn more about. That's always attracted me. I mean, the thought of, for me, I remember when my daughter was asked, "My God, is your mother a lesbian?" I remember when she was like 12 years old, when I had just done Fire. And she came to me and she said, "Mom, are you a lesbian?" And I said, "No, I'm not." And she said, why did you do this? And I said, because it's not just sexuality I told her that at this point, and I still believe that attracts Manoj, you've done this in your wonderful Hansel's film, but it's also about what is the emotional payment or entanglement or feeling of satisfaction that one gets in a binary non-binary relationship. So water was exactly like that. What does one do when you have nothing, when everything is taken away? All of them are in fact very women centric, but most of them are about subjects that I want to know more about.
Mm-hmm.
So the research has become a big curiosity.
Yeah.
They say kill the cat, but in this case it makes me write scripts. I don't know.
That's great. Juhi, is it the curiosity that makes you work? I mean, I'm also curious about the process. You mostly worked with Shudit. I mean, you've done some dialogue you written for a few other films, but and I think there are 5 films you've worked with him on,
Right,
uh,
right. Yeah.
and each very different subjects.
Mhm.
Um, is it do you sit? Is it your own original ideas that sort of churn into scripts, or do you talk to him first and he suggests? How does the process work, and the writing process especially?
Uh, Writing process, see, usually, I mean, uh, I love to think, I love to overthink. And I think from those thoughts, those conversations, whatever the idea comes up, for me, so far it has been that, something about some aspect that I'm part of at that moment in time has triggered enough reasons to stay with that thought, with that idea. And um, then I do see a film that there is a possibility to write or explore more. Forget writing part. I mean, just to know that subject more, know that idea more, to see if is that the one. And like Vicky Donor, for example, when it popped up in my head, I did not know what the future would be for it, but of course Srijit was patient enough to wait for the script and see what I was trying to say. And that sort of became my process, because before that, obviously I had not written anything. So for me, and also coming from advertising background, I think idea first. It's always idea first, and you have to go with an idea. Maybe it was a very employee mindset, that unless and until you don't have an idea, what are you going to talk about?
Right.
uh, your life depends on what you churn out in few lines. And so I always went to Shajit with an idea, that okay, look, I have an idea, what do we do with this? I mean, do you think there's a possibility or not? And I would just vomit out all my thoughts in it. And so far, yeah, so Piku came out like that. uh, um, again, October was a conversation post Piku or around Piku. I mean, again, see, thing is that sometimes, your own films um, lead to the next one or the one after. Like, for example, October, the conversation that we were having was that whatever Piku did for her father, as in Bhaskar, it was more out of the relationship she shared with him, or whatever I did for my mother, it's because of the relationship. It's like a very clear father son, father daughter, or mother daughter kind of relationship. But would somebody go out that far and go through that grind and all of that without any relationship, not even love relationship? Would you still do that?
Yeah.
So that is how October came out in conversations like that. So again, there's no idea. It's just a would it happen with people? Would they do? And again, you explore minds. Is there a possibility? Do we know such people? Are we willing to drown ourselves with those kind of people? I mean, while in the process of writing. And Gulabo Satabo, again, greed was a very big thought in my mind, because I see that is what is there in life. I mean, currently people, the 2020, if it all, is, I guess, a repercussion of all the years and years of greed and hoarding and consumerism, which, I mean, all of us are suffering. But so yeah, that is how ideas come. And then, of course, once he also feels that there is some potential out there, we talk, we discuss, and then I just disappear to write, because the writing part, I just feel that the first draft, if I can write it completely on my own, simply because I just want to write out everything that my mind is, coming up with. Because then, sometimes you just start following the other person's thought trail, and somewhere you lose out yours. So the first draft is, and also it just becomes easy that you have some, some bone structure there to build upon, to discuss. Otherwise it's all abstract. I mean, we can go and discuss hours and hours and hours, but if there is something concrete out there, it just becomes a lot more fulfilling. So yeah, so far, and I have never written story and then step outline. I have not followed that process ever. I just dive into the film script straight away. Of course, the writing part I do like really late in my the duration, because that's a technicality, I just feel. But for me, just thinking and overthinking and over processing and living with that thought for months, I guess, is my process. He's patient with me.
Yeah, that's interesting. So Manojji, we heard from Deepa, who's a writer plus a director. I'll talk to more about director. Juhi, who's a writer, and they're bringing scripts. You as an actor, when a script comes to you, I've often heard actors say, the script was very powerful. It was a wonderful script. First of all, do you read script yourself or you prefer narrations? I'm curious about that. But also, what's a strong script? What does that mean? What does a good script mean?
First of all, I read myself. I have a theater background, very strong theater background. And also narration, I tried taking narrations, 15, 20 minutes of the narration. And my mind went for a walk somewhere. So, but that doesn't work. But reading a script is like reading, writing material of somebody. For me, there are some good scripts, some fantastic scripts, some average, and some really bad one. So I'm reading it like a reader, not as an actor. First of all, it has, and sometimes, it's just 20 pages of it or 30 pages of it, or 50 pages, and you just lose interest because it is going here and there. And the similar thing happens to all of us when we are reading a book written by anybody in the world. Sometimes, just so engrossed into it that you forget about eating your breakfast, or or going for a walk. Sometimes you just want to finish it, then you want to get on with life. So the script is like that. It's no way different from reading a book, or from reading anything which is, a creative writing. Which script I do? Deepa said it initially itself that not everything that you read which is good, that you go ahead and do it. Sometimes you do it because there is more to just being a good writing, just being a good script. There is more to it, and I look for those kind of scripts. And part of the and the examples are like Bhosle or Aligarh, for that matter. Aligarh I did because yes, I was very curious. I was very curious to put myself into that kind of a situation, because your process, that the path you'll be taking to achieve uh, the 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 performance for the character, all the elements that you note down, or or your director wants you to get into the character. That you'll be completely immersed into it, and then experience the world. And that's what I wanted to experience, the world of Professor Sirus. uh, with me, personally, I think it has to offer more. It has to give me a, a chance and opportunity to put my own interpretation into it. Okay, there is a writer and there is a director. You take everyone's interpretation into it, but at the same time, there has to be a space for me as an actor, for me as a person who is aware about the surrounding world, the world that he's living in. There has to be some space, or it has to be exciting enough, or uh, for me to put in, slide in my own interpretation into it, is very, very important. And then I'm really kicked about it. And it has happened to me with so many films, where if I get that uh, that chance, uh, then I'm really excited. You talk to the writer, you talk to the director, you try to understand where they are coming from, in terms of their vision. And then getting all of those elements into the characterization. There is something of an actor which I try to put in. Uh, so that makes it much more exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very similar to, say, if you are doing Hamlet,
Mm-hmm.
which has been written by hundreds of years ago by Shakespeare, but people went on doing Hamlet differently, and so many great actors have done Hamlet, and they have come up with their own interpretation to all these characters. And that's what makes a characters much more memorable, when an actor finds a chance, find it exciting to put in his own interpretation. uh, that is where I always felt that all the characters which became memorable, uh, of all the great actors, is the performance where they could say something of their own, uh, be it Nasir or Om Puri Saab, or anybody, even Dilip Saab for that matter. And in Hollywood there are many. So the journey is that long, Aseem, from book, from script to uh, to some. At times, the writing is really good,
Mm-hmm.
but you just don't uh, feel like saying yes to it, because you just just enjoyed it. You don't think that you'll be taking that much of a uh, you know those many steps to just because but the performance itself is a very arduous process for me, very, very tedious. And so is it worth for me to just get into that, go for that process? Or it is just a good writing, and I have enjoyed it and let it go. Sometimes even that happens with me. Not everything that you read, that you accept to do it. It has to it And this is exactly, this is what actors tell you, that this is mind blowing, this is very powerful.
Mm.
I think it i think i mean i, I when I say this is very, very powerful, for me it's is exciting, it's engrossing, and it kind of enticing much more than anything. It entices you to towards it, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
somewhere it asks you, it requests you to do it. Though all of those feeling when that comes to you, you just go ahead and do it. Um, uh, the very recently, 2 years back, uh, uh, I met a writer who was, I found him, fantastic in his writing, and I gave him an idea because I told him about a world, and I wanted somebody to write a script of that world, and he's written it. Uh, there was an idea, which was going on. There was interpretation going on in my mind. I wanted him to put into that world, and after that, I didn't have anything else, since I'm not a writer, so I could share all of those things with the writer. And he came up with a fantastic story. Then he wrote a script. Sometimes you go that route, you take that route, because that there is a world which is unexplored. There is a character which can be put into that world, and it will make the world much more exciting and enticing, that people have never seen, and you can explore all those uh, very rare relationship that people get to see. So sometimes you work backwards, and since 5 years, this is what I have been doing: finding writers, finding uh, writers who could write things, um, which I wanted to,
Mhm.
portray on the screen, or wanted to be part of, that kind of writing. Now, since for 4 or 5 years, I've been waiting for, going for all the new directors and writers like Devashish Makhija, searching for them in short films. Uh, so, there is not one rule for, you know for choosing a script,
Mm.
for me. And at times you feel that, I should just do a good mainstream film. It is coming from a good house. You just
Mhm.
do it because,
Mhm.
you want that, you want to be relevant in the market, so that, you can
Mhm.
push other things. So
Mhm.
it's all mixed,
Yeah.
Aseem.
Yeah.
It's never one rule that you apply when you are choosing a script.
Yeah, yeah, no, I understand that. Deepa, something Manoj said, and that led me to, I was thinking of asking you the question itself. You finished a script, for instance, whether it is Fire, Water, which is your own script, or whether you co-wrote with Salman. You go through audition process. There's some lead act, main stars. You will not audition Amir Khan. I don't think so. Shabana Azmi. I'm sure you won't audition them. But there's several other. Once you cast the thing and you sit with all the actors, you have. I'm sure you have read-throughs and rehearsals, right, before you start to shoot. I'm just wondering what happens when you discover words that you wrote, the way you visualize the characters, and then the actors start to read and they make it something of their own as such while you work with them as directors. I don't know if there's any examples you want to give us, or what is that process like for a director then?
Uh, when I finish writing a script, generally, I mean, it's different for different
Yeah.
actors, but there is a certain way I work that works for me. First of all, let me tell you that I've never had an audition. I've never done an audition in my life. I have never had, I don't take my script and or give a part to somebody and say, will you read it out to me? And, or can we film it while you read it? I mean, I just find it a humiliating process for an actor to go through.
Wow. Okay.
What do they, I think I feel embarrassed that I'm asking. It's not the caliber of the actor, any actor. If I don't know what kind of a person I want, I shouldn't get them even in the room. The way I look at actors is when I do a script, I put the script away for about at least a month. And then I actually approach it as a director, which is a totally different
Hmm.
hat,
Hmm.
completely, and then when I read it, it's sort of interesting. I mean, I don't want it to sound esoteric, but I say to myself, what are the colors of this script? And that's how I start. I mean, for me, for example, water. This is like being really obvious or something, or let's say even Funny Boy was uh, was all ochre. It was like the ochre of the sunsets that are so Sri Lankan, the palm trees. So it was green, and it became ochre, and it became the turquoise of the sea, and then it became about the sectarian war and the genocide, and which was red blood.
Hmm.
And so I start with actually the colors of the script. And then I have a pretty good idea as to who I want as a director when I read it, who I would like, my best possible choice to play a certain role. And it doesn't always work. And what I do is I send the script to the whole script to the actor. I don't ask them to read it. I wouldn't even know how to narrate anything. I'd feel like a fool. I wouldn't know how to do it. I send the whole script to them, and if they respond to it, like Manoj says, I mean, it might be a bit, a good script, but it's not for him, so he'll pass on it. And if there's something in it that intrigues him, maybe he'll say, "I'm intrigued by it," or his manager will. I don't know, whatever. And then I'll say, "Can we have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea together?" And then we chat about the film, not the character, but how the character fits into the film. And then what that's the way I cast. And sometimes after the chai, we both agree that really this is not for her or him. Or we say, "My God, we're so excited, I can't wait to work together." And that's how I cast. And then what I do is I spent about 2 weeks in rehearsals. That's a very integral part. And that's not rehearsals of the script. That's the rehearsal of the character. And basically, and I discovered I was very, I'm sure, uh, Manoj, you know about this. You've been to theater school, but I discovered with my first film, the Natya Shastras, and
Right.
the nine ras, the nine emotions. So we work towards, which is bravery, beauty, love, cowardice, uh, wonderment, peace. But you work with those nine emotions, and we say, okay, if an actor comes or she comes, and we work with them. How do you say any line? It doesn't have to be a line from the script, from the box of, from the space of, if the line is "I love you," but can you say it from the from the area of hatred? I mean, it's a very basic
Yeah. No, but
enough
yeah, yeah.
non-caster, but what it does is, as a director, for me, it shows me the ability of the actor, the range of the actor. I don't have to say anything. I don't have to say, "Acha, isko zor se bolo," or "isko
Mm,
kam bolo."
mm,
I think that kind of, but it's up to them. How
mm,
will
mm,
they interpret it? And as for you, I mean, what you asked, if an actor says a line that's there, nothing is written in stone, and it should not be written in stone. It's about the feeling. And if the line says something like, "Maine yahan nahi jana," well, I'm not going to go there. But the actor says, "I don't feel comfortable saying that. I'd rather not say anything.
mm,
Can I show it?" I'll say, "Go for it." Because my thing is, what is the actor going to bring?
mm,
The
mm,
script, the
mm,
foundation, I'm building the edifice, but who's going to inhabit it? It's
mm,
the actor.
mm,
So for me, it's very important to hear uh, or to know what the actor is going to bring to make the thing whole
mm,
again.
mm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, no, I think it's fascinating. I mean, it's very interesting to hear especially in your case, because you're a writer, you're also a director. So the whole process, I think, is fascinating. Juhi, similar question to you, but in your case, once you finished your script, and in fact, even before you finished your script, I'm curious, did you know you were writing for Amitabh Bachchan, whether it was in Piku or whether it was in Gulabo Sitabo? Are you aware of the actors who are going to be cast sometimes? Uh,
No, only in the case of Mr. Bachchan for Piku and for Gulabo Sitabo, both. I mean, we knew it as him. Um, I mean, we could not just see anybody else other than him
yeah.
playing Hardcore or him, anybody else playing Mirza instead of him. So in both the instances, actually, I knew that it was for him. And to be honest, it really helped me. Though normally, I mean, it has to be the story, it has to be the characters, it has to be that world. It is their relationship with that world, or my understanding of these characters within that world. All of
Right.
that is right. But when it is someone like him, uh, the advantage that I get as a writer,
Mm,
and I'm again specifically saying that whether it was Irfan as Rana, or whether it was Bhaskar, Mr. Bachchan as Bhaskar or Mirza, um, see, they have also lived life very intensely, very deeply as people. Forget them as actors. I'm just saying, as people as human beings, I know how invested they have been in their life, the amount of experiences that they have gone through themselves. I'm aware of it as a, when I'm thinking about my characters. And then, it just helps you that, is there anything that I can borrow from his experience? Not like a specific experience that he has had in his life, just his knowing, his knowledge, his awareness. Will it, help me write this character better? So is, the understanding of Avdi culture, or Lucknow, Allahabad, all that area, the dialect, the language, the Urdu that was spoken in Gulabo Sitabo, knowing that he knows that already, I could go all out and write it without worrying that my actor will not even understand this word. In fact, I knew that he would understand this, and if need be, if he felt like, he would add a lot more to it. So that worked in my advantage. But again, it has to be someone like that, like Rana in Piku. Whatever was written was separate. He just wanted, like Deepa just now mentioned, just conversations about this space, about this life, about these people. Not all actors are invested that much, but the ones who are there, it really helps in your writing process. You just tend to borrow from their knowing of the world. And but otherwise, no, we didn't know that it would be Deepika. I did not know at all that Varun would play Deepika.
Varun, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was a completely a different kind of decision Shrijit made, and it worked perfectly for the film.
Yes, yes, yes.
Dan was that character, and like again Deepa mentioned that Shrijit did not give the script to Varun at all, because he didn't want him to know any line. He didn't want him to rehearse those lines, because the worry is that, when you start rehearsing and you start over rehearsing, and you, as an actor, maybe sometimes some actors might just get stuck in that zone, but the film does not have to go there. Film is very sensorial. It has to come as a immediate reaction. You need to just know that world, and that's about it. So Shrit kept feeding him incidences from the hospitals, from the habits of Dan, ki tu aise chal, aise baat kar, tu just keep talking to me. So he would feel little awkward also, but that was what the character was, little awkward, little unsure, So, those kind of you know those kind of decisions, definitely directors take. For as far as my writing is concerned, other than Bhaskar and Amirza's character, I did not know. And I mean, writing Rana for Irfan was my personal craving to do a film. So that was my little greed there. But for me, it is really, really the characters, the world that I'm immersing myself in, and my it's like a sum total of the life and understanding of that life. You pour out there through these characters. Sometimes you want to say so much and you can't, and these people become like a medium for you to express yourself a lot more. Sometimes these people bring out those truth from inside you, which you didn't even know existed inside you. And for me, that process is very fascinating, to engage with my characters so deeply that once it's over, I really feel like a changed person myself. I must evolve with every film. Otherwise, there's no point investing that many hours, days and nights or whatever. So it's a very deep relationship I share actually with my characters. I don't want any interference, any guidance, any conversations while they and me are in a relationship.
But once the script is over and you hand it over.
No. Yeah, I never go back. I'm still there with them. I'm there with them long after the people have moved on to another projects. Because again, it's not a project for me. Aseem, it's like if I had to write for a specific purpose, which is just filmmaking and film, ab ugly film, one project to another project to another project, I would have been able to cut myself out. For me, these writing. I mean, I was getting a good salary in my advertising job. There was no need for me to leave that comfort and just come here in this absolute, nothing is done till it's done, right? Uh, but that satisfaction that I have, um, that this has helped me evolve. This is something which has to be, the longevity of that relationship. It's not just limited to a film got released and got over, and next film released and next film got over. For me, these people become really real people. Why did Bhaskar said, "Shadi ka purpose agar nahi hai, to fayda kya hai?" It has to stay with you for years. It must have um, literary quality in every interaction that I'm having with my character. Otherwise, I mean, I'm not writing for the film for the heck of making film. I'm writing because it helps me understand a lot of things far better.
Yeah, but it's, as a viewer, it's the same thing. I mean, when I still remember when I saw Fire, for instance, when Deepa made Fire, or a few years later when I saw Earth, or I've seen subsequent films. Your films, I mean, Piku is my absolute go-to happy film, by the way. I can watch it as many times as possible. October, those characters stay with you. It's your writing and Deepa's direction that really they haunt you. It's not, if the film is over, you can always watch it again some other day, but they're real people.
They are real people. Aseem, they really are real people. I mean, we find ourselves in them, or through them we find, an aspect of our own self. I mean, like what Manoj said, that until he is able to make it his own. Now, what is that making your own means? Actor has to come and breathe in that oxygen into that 2D material.
Yeah.
But the 2D material also needs to have a soul of its own. And that will come only when I believe that these are real people. Only when I am very sure that Piku does exist for me, Dan does exist for me, only then there is soul in it. Only then a director will see many things beyond. It's not just what I have written. Where it needs to be taken, it must, what should I say? The director must be desperate enough after reading what I have written to take it there, make it his own or her own. The number of times Shajit reads my scripts is really way more than what I have done. Because he has to become, that material has to become his.
His, yes.
It must become actors' material. There were scenes in Piku while they were performing, while Irfan and Deepika and Mr. Bachchan were performing. It really felt like, did I even write this? Because they had made it so much. They had, it was their material. It was their life. We were just watching. It needs to go to that extent that you don't know where writing ends. You don't know where the direction begins. You don't know where the actor came in, because that is not how either your audience is seeing or should see. You want them to experience something, and for that, I don't think cinema should say, "Oh, this was writing. Oh, this was direction."
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah.
It has to be one.
Right. Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. Manojji, I want to tap into the actor in you. So if you're connected with a story, you said you wanted to explore the character in Aligarh, for instance, and see, his tragedy, his loneliness. How do you become the person that was written in words? What is your process? I mean, how much of it is the director? How much of it is Manoj Bajpai? And is it in front of the camera? And now what we are doing is, as Juhi said, the actors have made the characters, the words that she wrote, into their own. Deepa also said that. How does that process work for you? If you want to reveal a little bit of it. And I'm also very curious, the other thing about scripts and I wanted to ask Manoj this question especially. I don't know, Deepa or Juhi, have you seen Bhosle? You should see it. It's a Sony Live. It's a very, very strong, powerful film. In fact, there's so much silence in that film. And I wonder, how does the silence from the script become, go to Manoj Bajpai, and then Manoj Bajpai then plays that very internal kind of character. I'm sure there were no dialogues in any case, right, Manoj ji? मैं ठीक बोल रहा हूँ?
Right. Right. बिल्कुल सही बोल रहे हैं. It started with too many dialogues. By the time we went on the set, Devashish Makhija was the director. He kind of reduced 80% of it.
Wow.
So, so I was all the more happier, because no dialogue is something that I'm always looking for, personally. That's my personal space. All the things that in mainstream that people have seen me doing is something that is not me. That is not something that fascinates me. What fascinates me is what is happening between the lines. What is happening between the lines, in the mind of the character is something that I like to explore. It's is the silence between the pauses between two lines is the time actor is exploring the character. The character comes alive, and uh, when you say that it's nuanced, when I read these lines, I laugh, because I really feel that like Aseem is very respected, journalist, author, and critic. But I would request him to I would like him to elaborate more on those nuance, because otherwise, just a word, it's very nuanced role. But what are those nuances? And those are the nuances we really, I personally work on. It's never a silence without something going on in your head. It's never a look without a purpose. Okay, very rarely there is a look without a purpose. Very rarely, and because it demands, the writer demands, or the director demands, or the actor thinks that it should be. There are times when you look without any purpose. How do I prepare the the the, the approach is very varied, Aseem. So since you've been talking about Aligarh, so I will talk about
Yeah.
Aligarh here. So when it was offered to me, Hansel thought that I would not do it, but finally, he was surprised that I accepted it. Uh, I so whatever everybody thought is the script, I didn't, it didn't strike me that way. It struck me very differently. What was fascinating about Professor Sears for me, it was his love for poetry, his love for Lata Mangeshkar, his love for uh, two pegs of whiskey in the evening, desire to be left alone in a society which is always trying to peek into your life, or so voyeuristic. If you are different, different than if different to them, then all the more reasons for them to look into your life, try to look into your life. So these were the things which struck me. Uh, like a lightning, and I wanted to explore all of that. So I'll give you an example. So I requested Hansel to uh, give me someone who is very quite fascinated by Marathi poetry and Marathi literature, and he the first thing he asked me, why we are not making anything in Marathi, it's a Hindi film, why you want it? So I said, please give it to me. I have a process. I'm thinking that this would really crack uh, the characterization. So he said, okay, I have my chief assistant director who's not only a Maharashtrian but also quite a lot into Marathi poetry and literature. So the chief assistant director, he himself does theater, and is a hardcore, very tough guy. To be pleased by anything is जिसको हम लोग बोलते हैं खड़ूस theater वाला. So he used to come to my place, and for 6-7 days he was completely puzzled. And he every time he left my house thinking that I'm doing something completely nonsense, because I used to ask him to teach me Marathi from A to Z, ka kha ga in Marathi, and and I started learning Marathi, though it had the film was definitely not in Marathi, but I wanted to get into the world of words and the letters and the sound of Marathi. Uh, And then slowly I started getting into the Marathi poetry recitation, and I started reading Marathi in front of him, though it was all wrong. Pronunciations was all, all over the place. And then after 20 days of doing this, he came to me and he said, I apologize to you for really judging you in the beginning. I think you're ready to shoot. I can see that transformation in you. So uh, for me, Sirus was a poet, uh, a literature lover. He was a professor of Marathi literature in Aligarh, and and I was not. I'm not a whiskey drinker. I don't drink hard liquor. So that is something that I didn't do. But since I have done it in my theater days, the memories of those, those evenings were already there. But I didn't need that drunkenness anyway. Uh, the loneliness part is something I had to mm, really work on. There are all kind of loneliness. Each and every person, the four of us here, we all can be called lonely people, in our own way. But it's you had the when an actor is portraying a lonely character, he has to really work on the environment and the surroundings and the backstory and the upbringing of the character, and then try to find his or her loneliness. Okay. So the professor's serious loneliness was found that way, while doing the rehearsals. uh, on the contrary, what Juhi was saying, on the contrary, I like to rehearse quite a lot. With me, my actors get sometimes completely tired. Uh, Not that I ask them to be with me in each and every rehearsal that I'm doing,
Mm.
but I start doing it so they get embarrassed and they start joining me. So so it becomes the two rehearsals for the lines, 4 5 rehearsals, just to get used to the atmosphere, the blocking. Everything has to be mine. The blocking. Otherwise, the blocking is going from here to there, from this point to that point. It has to be mine. If it is not mine, then till then I'm very, very nervous or uncomfortable. uh, at times, I go on the set, we start doing rehearsal, and I request director to change the blocking, and we have a chat, we have a talk. Then sometimes some directors are very generous, they change the whole setup completely, the camera setup, because they find the changed blocking much more meaningful, or it is doing some good to the shot or the scene. They change it. So it's a very collaborative process at the end of the day. But I, we I as an actor, don't forget that I am. It's collaborative till director says that's it. Okay, because this is his or her medium. Okay, so I have to obey to that. That's it. When he says that's it, let's move on. uh, so the for Aligarh, I took that process, uh, Aseem. But for Gangs of Wasipur, if you ask me, um, um, Anurag thought that I'm going to do it, in the same manner as I have done a mafia or gangster in the past. So he prejudged me on that one. But he looked at it as a gangster. I looked at it as a womanizer. There was a difference. Okay. So we were coming from two different places, but his purpose was getting solved. I mean, I was not kind of uh, uh, ruining his film. Even if I was coming from a womanizer point of view, I was not ruining his film. I was not ruining his vision. Till then, he was quite fine. Rather, he was jumping and screaming with joy. When a director's vision is in danger, that is the time director tells you to
Mm.
stop with your extreme interpretation. Just go this way. And no, I'm you. So it's a very give and take kind of a. But never I go on the set without really working on it, Aseem. And there are many ways to look at a script. Uh, Gangs of Wasipur, I prepared differently. But when I was doing Aligarh, I went the other way. I innovated a way of approaching that character. So yeah, I mean that's how you you innovate, you explore. Sometimes I just don't do anything. I just read the script, sit with the director. At times, if there's a different writer, then you sit with the writer once and twice. You meet up with them and try to find where they are coming from. I just don't prepare at all. I just read the script as many times as possible. I go on the set.
When the Aapki Nazaron Mein Samjha is one of my favorite moments in Ali
Right.
was being shot. How much was it written in the script that Apu Asrani had written? And how much was improvised? I'm just wondering how actors
Yeah.
take that notion and then make it their own.
Okay, so it was a two line. It was written in two lines. That's it. That Professor Sirus is he's closing the window. Then he sits on his table, makes a glass of whiskey, switch on the tape recorder, and Lata Mangeshkar's song is playing in the background. That was those were the lines. And that night I was feeling very tired, so I asked my director Hansel, "Yaar, kab tak khatam hoga? Please let me go, yaar." And it was around 12 o'clock. He said, "No, I mean just the two lines, yaar. I'll just put a shot and it will be over." None of us thought. I mean, I went there and we done the blocking and we started shooting. I mean, there was no rehearsal at all. We just decided that let's go ahead and take it. And then it went on. It went on, and Hansel didn't say cut. And then suddenly it went on for a very long time. And our cameraman said, "Let's take all of those movements, finger movements, and wherever he's emoting, let's take all of those in close." Then we went for the close, and it took us 4 hours to finish that after the
Your
first take.
toes also are moving.
Yeah, right. So everything that they saw happening in that take, they tried to capture it in close, and that took another 3-4 hours, for the scene to finish.
I'm sure Deepa is aware of that happening. Deepa, any final thoughts? If you look back at your long career in terms of how scripts have worked with you, how they become your scripts or somebody else's script that you're working on, how they become your companions, and then it becomes a film.
I don't know. It's different. It's different. I mean, I think that for me, being a scriptwriter, I don't generally carry being a scriptwriter to the set. Like I said, I, when I put on my director's hat, I leave the script behind. I mean, it's somewhere in my psyche, it's somewhere in my subconscious. But
Right.
I think the whole process after that is what really excites me as a filmmaker, working with the actors, because that is where you're so tired of hearing it probably, but I find that whole process absolutely magical
Yeah.
because they come and they take something I would have written about 6 months ago or even thought about, or but it's the environment, it's what the set designer has done, it's where we placed a chair, where there's no light, where there was one paragraph of somebody doing a monologue, suddenly we say, no, it's so much better, like Manoj was saying, that there's just silence. And what is the actor thinking in that silence, because it shows. You just can't just be silent. What are you thinking, and how do you emote being silenced? I mean, those are the challenges and are very exciting for me. So I think that it is, I mean, like Juhi said, like Manoj said, it is completely collaborative. Whether you agree or disagree, it's still
Yeah.
collaborative.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the power of cinema, is that we all come together and we say it's not working or it's working. But there's one moment where we all know it's working. And that's the moment that ends up in the editing room and probably on the editing room floor. Who knows? But on set,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the magic of movies, I think.
That's fascinating. Juhi, any parting thoughts? as a writer, you said you can't give up your characters. I can totally understand that.
It's
But
not characters. Like I said, they become people for me.
yeah,
And
the friends.
the friends, yeah, they are your midnight friends. You look for your answers in them. But I mean, I just feel that, like what just Deepa said, that it's a collaborative work. I feel writers or directors or actors, I guess we are all seeking some truth or the other. There is some emptiness, and it's important, because unless and until that feeling is not there, that that you're lacking something, if it's not there, if that emptiness is not there, you'll never want to fill it with anything. And I'm so glad that we are able to fill it with thoughts which are meaningful. They have a purpose, they must have a purpose. Whatever you're seeking, whether it's a political truth, whether it's a moral truth, whether it's your psychological truth, whatever relationship you share with the world. I mean, like Manoj said, how he brought that Maharashtrian character, where he was approaching it from, whatever it is, whatever his process is, whatever Deepa's process is. But ultimately, we are all so beautifully dependent on that world of ideas and thoughts and words. And I think art, writing, or cinema, they really do make for a wonderful world out there. I feel they're a very important part of our existence.
Absolutely right.
And therefore, I also feel therefore, I definitely feel as a writers that we shouldn't, especially if you are writing for screen, we shouldn't say, "Oh, this is for screenwriting." I think writing is writing, thinking is thinking. What you think out here in the brain, in your subconscious, in your conscious mind, whatever it is, I think that needs to be of a very high quality. That responsibility, I feel it's very important, because cinema is very powerful. It's not entertainment. It is not weekend to weekend. We are talking things which can really put a shift there in people's mind. We stay with people, when they go back home,
Yes.
or when they switch off their Netflixes or their Amazons or wherever, you're occupying their space. It better be very nice. It better be very beautiful.
It's often very nice, and I really, I'm thankful to all of you. Manojji, any final thoughts? Really, I mean, as an actor, what you bring, it's that's what stays with us. The writer's words and the director's direction. But any final thoughts?
See, all I would say that writing is such a beautiful art. It's something that I tried doing. When I was doing theater, I've written 2 plays, and that was the time, Deepa, I realized that it's such a difficult job. I mean, it's so lonely. It's so lonely and treacherous. It's treacherously lonely. I found. I've written.
That loneliness
Yeah,
is addictive, but
yeah. So I've written 2 plays, and after that, I put my hands up. I said, no, I'm not going, because being an actor itself is so gruesome, in your mind, and then you're putting another thing on on yourself. So I kind of stopped after. But I somewhere feel that actors should really not only be watching and observing and living life, but they should also be, sometimes just read, because at the end of the day, we should really know what are the written words meant for, what are they exactly saying, and how many ways people write, how many ways. You don't have to read, thousands of books. You just read one book in 2 months, that will be sufficient. If you're not a book reading person, just read articles written by anyone. Because I still remember Mr. Raghuveer Yadav, who by far is the best actor that I have worked with. Yeah.
Great.
So, and this a person who has given us the lesson into natural acting and the definition of natural performance. Uh, when I went to his room when I was doing theater, suddenly I saw so many books in Hindi. You know, it's so many books, and he's so versed. He remembers all of those small anecdotes from all of those books. We meet Nawazuddin Siddiqui, and then you realize that this guy he reads. He not only reads words, he reads people. He watches films. He's emotional intelligence of a high caliber. Okay, um, so being an actor doesn't mean that you just wear nice clothes or wear your character's clothes and go on the set. There is a that you live life, and you live life completely. All aspect of life. I think one should live. It's very, very important. Uh, and that is why you see actors who are thinking, actors who are working on themselves. After 40, they become, they just bloom after 40 because they have all of them, all throughout the world. All of these actors that you see, they suddenly there is a vast change in them after 40, 45, because the amount of life that they have lived, they have so much of interpretation and observation of people, and the reading and watching, and they have immense respect for the words that they deliver. uh, the silence that they portray on the screen is so soothing to your eyes when watching those performances.
Mm.
Well,
You know,
go
you
ahead,
know,
Deepa.
sorry, Aseem. I'd like to share a quote with all of you, which I
Yeah.
read and actually did change the way I approach cinema or any kind of reading or
Mm,
whatever
mm.
it is. It's a quote by Brecht, who I admire hugely, and it says that art is not what mirrors reality, but it's a hammer that shapes it. So it's about value and the power of every aspect of what we do. If it's just a mirror of what we think it's going to be like, it's really boring.
Mhm, mhm,
Right.
Music is a hammer, तब
mm,
मजा आएगा, है ना?
mm.
Nicely said.
On that note, I'm looking forward to many, many more projects from all of you. It'll be great to see all three of you work together someday.
I'll add just one small anecdote. When Deepa was sharing it, just suddenly came in my mind. So I'm from Lucknow, and we did like UP board. UP board is like really drilling kind of board. It's not your ICSE board. It's not your CBSE board. UP board has it's really intense. Anyway, so we had like some 4-5 math books. Syllabus was really huge. So there was this tuition teacher who would come home, and his name was Vidya Bhushan. It's quite this thing that he was the teacher, and his name was Vidya Bhushan. And he would tell my brother and me कि साले ऐसे पढ़ो, sorry for that word, साले ऐसे पढ़ो कि घर वालों को लगे तुमको टीबी हो गई है. इतना पढ़ो, ऐसे पढ़ो कि लगे टीबी हो गई है, और जीना है तो भी ऐसे ही जीना. So that sentence we of course made fun of him कि टीबी हुई या नहीं, टीबी हुई या नहीं. But what he really wanted to say, that if you're doing something, you have to do it like how? Like you have to get into
Immerse yourself totally.
immerse yourself. You have to dissolve in it. You have to drown in it. You have to die in it. Otherwise, just don't do it. So that sentence, that itna padho sale ki TV ho gayi.
I'm going to steal that line, Juhi.
His name also, Vidya Bhushan.
Vidya Bhushan, yeah.
Vidya Bhushan.
Chaliye, thank you very much to
Thank you.
all three of you, Manoj, Juhi, Deepa. I'm so glad we were able to, get you all together, the same, people in different time zones, different cities. And what a fascinating conversation. I had great time listening to all three of you. I hope you guys also had a good time, really. Yeah.
It was very pleasure, speaking to all of you. And
Yeah.
first of all, Deepa, whenever you're in Bombay, please let me know. At least we can have a cup of coffee or tea, whatever you like.
I
Or
would
dinner.
love that. But then you
Okay.
can't say no to me when I offer you some films.
Can we meet up first? And Juhi, Juhi, I mean, Juhi, I mean, very recently I watched your Gulabo Sitabo, sitting with my father-in-law, who is from Unnao state. Yeah, so he's been part of the old Havelis and the Havelis, and he's no more now. He just passed away 2 months back. And the best, I thought that I will convey to you from this departed solely the film, that last film he has seen was Gulabo Sitabo,
Oh, wonderful.
and he thoroughly enjoyed it. He was 94, and he himself came from a Nawab of Unnao family, and he's seen uh, the the what do you call, the fall of all the Havelis and the greed and all of that he has seen in life, and he said it's a very good film, and you know, और अमिताभ बच्चन बहुत अच्छे हैं इसमें. And coming from a very difficult guy who hardly appreciated anything. So yes, I just want to convey it to you and all the films that I have really enjoyed your writing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And I'm such a fan of Piku, so I have to tell you that. I loved it.
Yeah.
Thank you.